When was the last time you got an invitation to a salon in Paris? Well, you're invited today to go back in time to about 1830 to the Salon of George Sand on a note to you. I'm glad you can join us today. Soprano Paulina Stark and I have prepared a tableau of music and texts that evoke the intimacy of a salon concert. Just imagine yourself in the home of George Sand. Chopin and Liszt, two titans of the piano, encountered one another in Paris in the 1830s. They instantly became friends and not competitors. In fact, when Chopin wrote his watershed Etudes, Liszt built on that accomplishment and composed his own set of etudes. Both men had mistresses, important women in their own right. They were novelists. Chopin's mistress was the Baroness Aurore Dudevant, otherwise known as George Sand. Liszt's was the Countess Marie d'Agoult, alias Danielle Stern. Imagine the thrill George Sand felt when she learned that she was invited to stay in the same hotel and make use of the salon of the great Franz Liszt and his mistress, the Countess d'Agoult. "Come stay with me on Rue Neuve Lafitte, Hotel de France," the Countess wrote. "It's quite nice and not too expensive. I have a room and my salon will be at your disposal any time of day to receive your friends. This way, we'll be sure to see plenty of you." It was there at the salon of the Countess d'Agoult that George Sand met the pianist, Frédéric Chopin, and fell in love with him. Here's an etude that Chopin dedicated to the Countess d'Agoult. He titled it the Aeolian Harp. That does sound like a harp, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, but it's so beautiful.
That's my collaborator in this Parisian salon concert, soprano Paulina Stark. When she's not singing in the salon, Paulina is a teacher and performer at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. Chopin was busy in Paris as a composer, performer, and teacher, but his health was wretched. He was coughing up blood. A doctor suggested a trip to sunny Spain, so George Sand organized the entourage, and off they went. In the beginning, Chopin was ecstatic. Before we hear the Raindrop prelude, let's listen to a letter he wrote from Spain.
I am in Palma among palms. cedars, cacti, olives, pomegranates, a sky like turquoise, a sea like lapis lazuli, mountains like emeralds, and air like heaven. Sunshine all day, at night long hours of song and the sound of guitars. I shall probably lodge in a wonderful monastery, the most beautiful situation in the world, sea, mountains, palms, a cemetery, a crusader's church, ruined mosques, aged trees, 1,000-year-old olives. I am coming alive a little. I am near to what is most beautiful. I am better.
lot of dropping rain. That's sort of ostinato, those A-flats. I guess that refers to the rain that was supposed to have come to Mallorca and beat probably on the tin roof of the monastery.
Doesn't sound so good.
No, it doesn't. Now let's move to the beautiful songs.
Yes, Chopin was one of the reigning pianists, along with Liszt, of his day, and we don't think of him as a song composer. It really wasn't his most important output. But he wrote some charming songs, a lot of them influenced by folk feelings. I'd love to do one in Polish that takes a man's viewpoint and says, "Darling, when you speak, it's absolutely like the voice of angels. But when you look at me lovingly, I would like to smother your mouth with kisses." Nie śmiem odpowiadać. I tylko chciałbym słuchać. I tylko chciałbym słuchać. Lecz mowy żywać, gdy oczki zapali i pocznie mocne jagody rozżować. Perłowe zamki błysną wśród korali. Ach, wczeń czas, śmiene boczęta pogolam, usta pomykami kochać nie żadam. Tylko całować. And the next piece shows the woman's viewpoint, a very young woman who is absolutely mad for her sweetheart. She says his eyes roll like fire and his heart is truer than gold. And can there be ever in the world a guy more beautiful? Augen, die du rot Feuer und dein Herz aus Gott treuer, kann ein Bursche schöne sein und der Bursche, der ist mein, kann ein Bursche schöne sein und der Bursche, der ist mein. Mehr in Liebe brennt keine, als wenn mich nennt seine. Kann ein Bursche schöne sein und der Bursche, der ist mein.
We've just heard two songs by Frédéric Chopin, sung by my guest Paulina Stark in our George Sand Salon on A Note to You. And I'm playing the role of Chopin today at the piano. In a minute, I'll get to play the role of Liszt. Here's an interesting piece that Chopin wrote in this period when he lived with George Sand. It's called Tarantella. He used to love to visit at her chateau, which was called Nohant. And in fact, you can visit it today. It's about an hour from Paris. It's located in the Berry region of France. His biographer, André Marois, believes that Chopin was as happy as he was allowed to be when he visited at Nohant. And this is the only piece I was able to find that comes directly from the life he shared there with George Sand. Their friend Eugene Delacroix was a wonderful artist. He liked to come down there on the weekends, and he sketched life in Nohant with the following words. "This is a delightful place. Every now and then there blows in through your window, opening onto the garden, a breath of the music of Chopin, who is at work in his room, and it mingles with the song of the nightingales and the scent of roses." I'm Virginia Eskin, and today, A Note to You is in Salon mode. I just played Tarantella, composed by Chopin at George Sand's villa, Nohant. In a moment, soprano Paulina Stark is going to tell us about another composer whose music we might have heard in a Parisian salon in the 1830s. Her name is Pauline Viardot. If you'd like to drop us a line, we'll be sure to write back. The address is A Note to You, care of WGBH Radio, 125 Western Avenue, Boston, Massachusetts, 02134. The email address is a note to you, all one word, at WGBH.org. And if you write, let us know the name of your public radio station. A note to you is made possible by the friends and alumni of Northeastern University.
Pauline Viardot was the daughter of the most famous vocal pedagogue of all time, I think, Manuel Garcia, Spanish-born, obviously. And her native language was really Spanish, although she certainly spoke French and probably several other languages. Made her operatic debut at age 17, which gives you pause, in Rossini's Otello in 1839. She was not beautiful, but she was evidently quite fascinating because the writer Alfred Musset and the composers Gounod and Berlioz all fell in love with her. But she married her love, Louis Viardot, and Chopin played piano duets with her, and Schumann dedicated his Liederkreis to her.
That's right.
So she was a very important woman and a very famous voice teacher herself.
And I might add, she plagiarized a little bit. She liked the mazurkas of Chopin, and she took some of them, I know, and wrote words to them.
Yes, she did.
The two that you like, though, maybe because of your Spanish background, personally, are ones with Spanish texts.
Right. I particularly think the one that we're doing called Cancione de la Infanta is fascinating music. This creates a scene in the royal palace in Lisbon where the Queen of Portugal is talking with her daughter-in-law, Isabel of Castile, who is the eldest daughter of Ferdinand and Isabel, the Reyes Católicos, who united Spain and who bankrolled Columbus's explorations. So a messenger arrives on horseback. In fact, you'll hear something like the horseback in the music. And he announces the shocking news that the Prince Alonso is about to die as a result of falling from a horse. His death was tragic because it forever dashed the hopes that Spain and Portugal would be united under this prince and princess. Hablando estaba la reina en su palacio real, con la infanta de Castilla, princesa de Portugal. Ay, 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 qué malas penas. Ay, 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 qué fuerte mal. Allí Well, she also wrote, obviously, in French, my favorite language, and set a wonderful setting of a poem by Alfred de Musset that was also set and really made famous by Léo Delibes, called Les Filles de Cadix, or de Cadix. The French sometimes call it Cadix, and the Spaniards Cadiz. It's spelled with an X. Anyway, it's a seaport on Spain's southern coast, and this is a charming story of the girls who come out and sort of promenade and ask the guys if they look good in their clothes. And when a kind of dandy comes up to them and offers them money for their favors, they answer in a very insulted fashion that they do not understand this kind of proposition.
Come on, not much.
Well, anyway, that's the poem.
Cute song.
Yeah.
Dites-moi voisin, si j'ai bonne mine, et si ma vasquine va bien ce matin. Vous me trouvez la taille fine, vous me trouvez la taille fine. Ah, les filles de Cadix, ah, aiment tasser cela. Vous me trouvez la taille fine, vous me trouvez la taille fine. Ah, les filles de Cadix, ah, aiment tasser cela. Les filles de Cadix n'entendent pas cela. Et nous dansions un bolero, un soir c'était dimanche, de nos souvenirs d'Hidalgo, tout cousu d'or, le plus beau chapeau, et le poing sur l'ange. Si tu veux de moi, Bruno doux sourire, si tu veux de moi, Bruno doux sourire, tu n'as que de dire, cet or est à toi. Passez votre chemin, beau sire, passez votre chemin, beau sire. Ah, ah, les filles de Cadix, ah, ah, n'entendent pas cela. Passez votre chemin, beau sire, passez votre chemin, beau sire. Ah, ah, les filles de Cadix, ah, ah, n'entendent pas cela. Ah, 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 les filles de Cadix n'entendent pas cela.
Here in our Parisian Salon, we've just performed two songs by Pauline Viardot. The soprano is Paulina Stark, and I accompanied her at the piano. I'm Virginia Eskin, and the program is A Note to You. Today we're attempting to give you an idea of the kinds of things that might have been heard in a salon in Paris in the 1830s. The author George Sand would have been there, wearing her outrageous men's clothing. Viardot would have been there, Chopin, and most likely Franz Liszt would have been holding forth as well. Perhaps Liszt would have played something like this for the gathering of artistes. This is his Liebesträume, or Love Dream, in E major. There's a poem that goes with it by the German poet Uhland, and Paulina is going to read it for us now.
Blissful death, I was as dead in love's fond blisses, and in her arms lay quite buried. I was awakened by her kisses, and in her eyes saw heaven's own light.
That was Liszt's Liebesträume, and it was my pleasure to play it for you in our Salon performance. I'm Virginia Eskin. It's amazing, isn't it, how different Liszt was from Chopin, even though they were both wonderful virtuosos at the keyboard. I think of Chopin as the Apollonian type, the perfectionist, making sure of every detail, keeping himself well-dressed and trim, while Liszt was Dionysian. He's the decadent bohemian who couldn't be suppressed. Paulina Stark is going to introduce a couple of Liszt songs for us now.
Yes, the first is a setting of a text by the great leader of the Romantic movement of poetry and literature in France, Victor Hugo. Highly personal author, very musical, and his plays were even made into operas by Verdi and Ponchielli. He was a good friend of Georges Sand. And this first one is called The Tomb and the Rose, and is really very interesting because Liszt does give you an idea of what kind of composer he was for piano, even in his songs. And they're very dramatic, don't you find?
Oh, yes, and the famous one that people always play, the
Liebesträume, yeah.
That's also in song form.
Right. This is a rather, not a particularly showy piece. It's on a somber subject, which says that the tomb or grave is speaking to a rose and asks the rose what it does with the tears that the dawn brings to it. And the rose says it makes a perfume in the middle of the night, just a beautiful, fragrant perfume. And then the rose asks what the tomb does with all the people who fall into the ever eternally open grave. And the grave answers that with each soul which arrives, it makes an angel in the sky. The next piece is in German and set to a poem of the very famous poet Heinrich Heine, and this may be his most famous poem. It's the Lorelei, the story of the beautiful woman on top of the rocks who sings so beautifully and is so fascinating that the fisherman looks up from his little fishing boat and doesn't see the reef in front of him and has a wreck and is brought to the depths of the ocean.
It's like the mermaid,
the mermaid
story.
Yes.
Well, and the idea, too, that you're blinded by beauty. Isn't that the metaphor? That you should never be taken in by something that's so beautiful. It's a mirage.
Yes. And particularly if there's a reef in the way, right? But it begins with the person who is reciting the story just saying that this story haunts me forever, and then it cuts into the story.
Ich weiß nicht, was soll's bedeuten, dass ich so traurig bin. Ein Märchen aus alten Zeiten, das kommt mir nicht aus dem Sinn, das kommt mir nicht
That is so beautiful. I have Paulina Stark, my singer friend, in the studio with me, and we just enjoyed singing Die Lorelei, a song by Liszt.
And we really sang it together because it takes a great pianist to play this, and it's a lot of fun to do.
And a good discipline for a pianist. It reminds us to make the right hand sing and the left hand accompany it. Liszt, of all composers, was aware of this. Here's an example. This is called Liebesträume, Song of Love. That was the lyrical Liebesträume in 8-flat by Franz Liszt, and I played it for you today as part of our recreation of the Salon of George Sand, on a note to you. I'm Virginia Eskin. We have time for just one more piece. To illustrate the pyrotechnical side of Liszt's personality, I've chosen the F minor Transcendental Etude, marked Allegro agitato molto. He must have been quite a pianist. Here's something from the journal of the poet Heinrich Heine. In 1841, he wrote this about Liszt. Yes, the brilliant artist is here again and giving concerts that exert a magic that borders on the fantastic. All other pianists pale beside him. All, that is, apart from one, apart from Chopin, the Raphael of the piano. Indeed, all other pianists are, with this single exception, mere piano players whose brilliance consists in the skill with which they handle the well-strung wood. In Liszt's case, one no longer thinks of the difficulty which is being overcome. The piano disappears and the music stands revealed. I've just played the Transcendental Etude number 10 in F minor by Franz Liszt, and it ends a note to you for today. My thanks to soprano Paulina Stark for being here today, evoking some of the atmosphere of 19th century Paris. The engineers are Jim Donahue and Alan Mattis, and the producer is Alan McClellan. And I'm Virginia Eskin. A Note to You is made possible by the friends and alumni of Northeastern University. It's produced by Northeastern University in cooperation with WGBH Radio in Boston.